Well, I believe we are streaming. Guys, welcome to our talk, Alice. John, thank you very much for joining. Today is going to be parenting issues during lockdown, parenting issues when people are suddenly got themselves into the really sometimes really confined small places will be actually not designed maybe to even to work from home, and they found themselves together with children, and children right now also have their own troubles, how to get through these times. They're supposed to continue studying. So I actually very much curious, what kind of problems do you guys right now experiencing? Or if not personally, maybe yeah, maybe your relatives or maybe your clients. So
John.
who is gonna start?
All right.
No one wants. Yeah, I sense some resistance.
No resistance. No, I
No.
was doing kind of the, I'll let Alice start, but I'm happy to
Okay.
begin.
Okay. Thank you, John. Hi, everyone. Some of the things that I've found out, I've been discussing with mostly with my son and my daughter, who both have children. So I'm like the grandmother. So with my daughter, who have a daughter who just turned 13, one of the things that she have noticed is that sometimes she's quieter, sometimes she's might get upset for no reason, and the way she's handling it is, instead of trying to make her stay on a schedule, so of what was normal, she's allowing her to have more freedom, not a set schedule. She's not demanding so much of her. And that's working out for both of them by her not demanding so much of the child, and it's allowing her to relax more and not put as much stress on her. And my son has two little boys, a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. Now, it's quite different with them. The 7-year-old, he's quite understand kind of what's going on. He called and he will ask me, how you doing, Nana? And you can't go out because coronavirus is outside. And the 3-year-old, he doesn't know anything. He's just playing. But one of the main things is with the parenting, not to put so much pressure on trying to get everything perfect, trying to make sure the child is doing all their homework in just a certain amount of time, and just relax some. And it takes the pressure off both of you.
Wow, Alice, thank you very much. Well, you jumped a little bit ahead. I was about to ask you how you solved issues which you just described, but you actually, yeah, you already got a recipe or at least one of the successful strategies. So, as I understood you correctly, the children, one child has some kind of unusual emotional response to that confinement, yeah, so quieter than usual, or some kind of I would say, yeah, emotionally maybe that child kind of introverted and taking in stuff, and as a result it's influencing her behavior, and the solution which worked in this case and with other children as well is not to put too much pressure, not to be too demanding, and take it easy on her. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, okay, John, what about you? What, first of all, what kind of issues do you experience, and what kind of strategies did you try, and what worked, what didn't?
Thank you, Alex. And thank you, Alice, because this is really kind of a segue into what Alice described, particularly with her daughter, because I have two boys who are 11 years old. And so it's, we have to be aware of each child's age and how they and where they are in terms of their maturity and what they take in. But, to segue from what Alice was saying is that as parents, we have been asked to adapt in every way and aspect of our lives. And part of that adaptation is now becoming a teacher. Even though the kids are online, we've actually had to assume the role as parent, but also teacher. Because the kids have been in class typically all day, and now they're at home and we're all together. And many parents, like myself, are having to work and having to straddle between working and also parenting and also teaching. And then I have an extra layer on top of this because I have a child who requires additional attention and special needs. So that actually adds another element to um, my adapt my adaptability in this whole thing. And what I think is most important, it's what Alice was saying and what her daughter did, is that it's about relaxing. And as a parent, for me, I want to be the model. I want to be sure that I am showing up in the way that is going to help my children relax. And, part of that is, you know, relaxing those boundaries and not being so hard on these set times and schedules.
Right.
One of the things that we talked about, and I know for myself, I was a very good student and I was the attentive student. And I was the student who always had their homework done and I showed up. And I recognize when that starts coming out. And so I have to be aware, and we've talked about this in some of our other discussions about creating our own awareness in ourselves first. And I have to be aware of what's coming out, some of those old triggers, and am I imparting that on the kids? And so I have had to step back. I've had to relax, loosen up those boundaries. And I think the other thing is that I have begun to learn from them. Because the fact of the matter is that they've actually adapted much better than the adults have. But again, it's so much of what we're putting out there as adults. And I'm hoping that that's kind of the give and take, that their relaxation and they're kind of moving into this and not being stressed out, hopefully is also coming from the parents as well and from me and my partner. So again, I think it's relaxing a little bit, but having that self-awareness as a parent. What am I bringing? And
Yeah.
ultimately, I will share with you this idea of humility and generosity and compassion for ourselves as parents, but also for the kids, because we're all going through this together. We are being asked to adapt in a whole new environment. So I'll talk a little bit more about that, but I think it's important for us to be kind to ourselves and to be kind to those around us and those we love.
Great, John. Thank you very much. And I can totally relate. Even though I don't have children around, I cannot personally really kind of contribute into the topic, but I have several discussions with my clients, coaching clients, and with some of them, actually, I had sessions like almost like a couple coaching, which we rarely do in a normal situation. But now one of my clients brought his wife because and we decided that we are going to talk about parenting because they really struggle. And well, in that particular case, without of course kind of naming clients or names or whatever, but my client brought the topic that his wife is extremely stressed, trying to make sure that the children are doing the homework in time, and they're doing this and doing that. And they also brought a topic that they totally lost control, how much children may be playing games using mobile phones and some electronic devices, because before the lockdown they had some kind of idea. I mean, they had a strict rules, 1 hour per day and so on. But now, because the children actually forced literally to use devices all the time, and they lost control. And what I would like to say, that as a result of my conversation with the client, what we came to conclusion is that situation changed quickly and changed dramatically. And in order for us humans to change, we need time. And very often our perfectionism, our ambitions are forcing us, like mentally, we are trying to do things too fast, we are trying too much. And when you're trying too much, you create, it's almost like, there is a resistance comes out of it. And you're actually overspending your energy, your emotional and physical energy. As a result, creating stress. As you said, John, awareness. So am I pushing too much? Do I give people around me time to adapt? Am I patient with myself? Am I patient with my children? I mean, those are questions I believe would actually bring kind of high awareness maybe, and allow some solutions to, like, easier solutions to come. So that would be my contribution. Alice, would you like to add something?
Yes, I can really resonate with what John was saying about the awareness, because me as a parent of 2 adult children, when everything started, I mean, my mama bear alerts went up. It's like, okay, and literally, I forgot that these were 2 adult children. These were my children. And I remember talking to my son, who lives in a different state. And I asked him, because he still have to go to work, do you have masks? I have one. So I go through, I had 4. So I take 2, I put them in the envelope, and I mailed them to him. So I had to kind of step back and think, okay, become aware of the stress that I was going through, that if I wasn't careful, even though they're adult children, I could put that stress on them.
Oh, yeah.
And then they might in turn put it on their children, and it would be just kind of like a domino effect.
Yeah.
So just being aware of my own stuff and stepping back and saying, okay, what's going on here? And as always, I just try to step back and take that deep breath so I can think for a while before I act. So awareness, I think, is a big key to us getting through this.
Well, couldn't say better. Well, in terms of awareness, sometimes personally I found very often quite useful question for me personally to ask, what kind of state am I practicing right now?
Right.
I mean, that the word practicing kind of remind me that, okay, I haven't noticed that I got myself into that state, probably because of certain particular thoughts, but I know that if I do it once, twice, 10 times, it will become my habitual or default state. Do I want? So the word practicing and like what kind of state am I practicing right now? And like, and it's kind of, it's reframing me in such a way that I really don't want to practice certain particular states. So as a result, like that's kind of my way to, you know, to motivate myself to notice. I just don't want to practice negative states and make them default. John, what about you? What are your strategies in dealing with the whole that transmission of wrong states to people around us and children in particular?
Thank you, Alex, because that was perfect alignment with where I was going with this. There really, there is this concept that there are two states. We either are in fear or we're in love. And I mean love coming from our heart. We're open. And what I try to do is check in with myself and ask myself that question. Am I coming into this with fear, or am I entering this in a state of love? So when I go to have a conversation, when the boys are playing their video games, this is a moment where I walk in, and if I'm feeling tense, that tension is probably coming from some kind of fear. The fear that, oh, they're going to fail at school, or the fear that something's not going to be completed, and a variety of things. But again, that to me is where I come from. It's either fear or it's love. And where I take this is, if there's still the anxiety, these are the moments where I will give them a hug. This is where I'll spend time with them to connect with them. This is where this is going to put me in a state of relaxation and connection, and it's also going to be for them, because my biggest goal is that as they are older and they reflect back on this time that we were all in this house together, I want them to recognize that there was something very serious that was going on out in the world. But I also hope that they will reflect back and say, I actually remember that time, and that it was a good time for us as a family, and that I remember the hugs and I remember the warmness, even to the extent, I remembered learning how to do laundry, or I learned how to cook, with my papa, or those things. And so that's also part of where my thinking comes from, is what do I want them to remember and recall in this time?
Yeah.
And again, is it going to be from a place of fear, or is it going to be from a place of love and remembering that there was connection? And so that's what I'm also trying to do as a parent, is not to be in the future too much, but to think about, what can I do right now to make this time as as easy, in these moments, as easy as it can be for them. Um, so again, checking in that state, and for me, it's am I in fear or am I in love? And that's really, to me, it's like the essence of who we are as human beings. So that's the essential approach that I take. At least I try, and that's the whole thing. This is about trying, right? It's about
Exactly.
practice.
Perfect. Thank you, John. I mean, what I sense, I mean, I don't even kind of want to go that, but I sense that some kind of spirituality is here very close. So, yeah,
That's
probably we're gonna
that's
talk.
that's another session,
That's
Alex.
Yeah, I
Can't
sense it
wait.
because, yeah, because love, it's like, the state of love and serving and remembering you later, how you behaved. I mean, like sometimes, like my recipe would be like this. Sometimes I missed certain thoughts. I mean, they are really quick. I mean, they could be bam, and you just missed it. And thoughts will create state quite quickly. After several thoughts on the same kind of frequency, like maybe on the same level of negativity, soon I discover myself already in a certain state. I could also miss this, but when I start acting out of that state, so when I start telling something or doing something, okay, maybe I missed first part, second part, but when I catch myself already doing something, which is quite late, I understand, but I could catch myself and ask myself, what that action come from? From fear or from positivity, and from like, what is the root? If I'm about to scream someone, don't do that, like what kind of, what that action has a, what kind of root that action has? I agree with you, John. Even if it's that late, you still can catch yourself. It's like, actually the root is fear. So, and that's a moment when you need to step back, relax, and for example, like John does a hug, and just like break the pattern. I mean, that would be like my simple recipe how people potentially, could deal with that. Alice, what do you think?
I agree.
Okay, so done deal then. We resolved all the problems. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I understand it's not that easy. And when you're in the middle of stuff and kind of people are not doing certain particular things and you are trying to, get it done, yeah, it's everything become. I just want people to remember that all those kind of mental things or tasks or ticking boxes are on a global scale really not important. I mean, it's like, do you remember, like, guys, do you remember that, I don't know, very famous book? What is the title? I think like five regrets of like people who are about to die. I don't know. The title is different, but
Yeah.
five biggest regrets of dying people or something like this. I
Yeah.
think one author from Australia, the woman. But what I do remember is that lots of people kind of when they reflect back on their lives, they always come to that, well, I would actually relationship, that what matters.
Yeah.
I mean, the feeling, the people around us, that what matters, not ticking boxes. And one of the regrets, by the way, of those people are like, I was overworking. I was just putting too much attention, too much energy into work,
Yeah.
neglecting people around me. So just to remember that. And in this case, probably people could a little bit relax about ticking boxes and make things perfect, because it's a pure mental kind of construction.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think one of the things when I think back when my children were growing up, one of the things I think about that I really tried to do was create memories wherever we are, whatever the time was. And my kids grew up as what we call military brats. So we were moving a lot. We moved a lot. We lived in Germany for a while. We lived here. We lived in different states. And sometimes it was really kind of crazy things going on. If we were overseas, it might, sometimes we had to go through riots and people would be protesting against, the American soldiers being there and things like that. But when I talk to them now and they reflect back on it, and I ask them, were you afraid? How do you feel about that? They have good memories because they have the memory of me being there, you know, and that's the greatest gift I think any parent can give their child when they look back, even though they might have been in danger to some point, but they look back and they reflect and they say, I felt safe, that you made them feel safe. Whether it was with a hug, just holding their hand, just a look. And that's what we just need to make them feel safe in this moment in some way. And then when they look back on this, it won't be so scary, you know, and even today won't be so scary.
Wow, awesome. Creating memories
Mhm.
and pay attention to the atmosphere and connection, and yeah,
Exactly.
that make perfect sense. That's like foundations kind of for memories.
Right.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, you know, Alex, I was going to add one of the things that I find myself doing is that I do apologize a lot. So when I am in those moments where I may have raised my voice, as you've described, you know, and when I'm able to catch myself, the boys are seeing me apologizing, and I explain why I'm apologizing. And usually it's very much about me. And they're also learning that self-reflection. They're learning and seeing from me that I'm able to look at myself and recognize that I'm human. And that's what I tell them all the time. We're human. And sometimes we make mistakes. And I'm sorry that I raised my voice. And this is how I'd like for us to, you know, kind of move forward.
Mhm.
So that's where I think this humility comes into play, because I'm hoping also that I'm teaching this skill, which is very difficult for many adults, is to say, I'm sorry, and to sometimes admit that, you know, we may not have acted the way that we've we thought might be best. And so, you know, with that, that's when I also incorporate those hugs. And to Alice's point and what we were talking about, this is about allowing them to feel safe and ensuring that, you know, what we continue to hear is that the most important thing right now is for us to connect with each other. We already, in our own essence, in before this happened, people did feel isolated and people felt
Mhm.
disconnected from each other. This I also see as an opportunity.
Exactly.
Despite this, you know, very serious situation, this is an opportunity for us to get back to connecting. And sometimes it's connecting with those who are standing in front of us.
Mhm.
Because, like
Yeah.
you said, Alex, so many times people are focused on the job and on work, and it is extremely important because that's what puts food on the table. But this also is an opportunity for us to remember that in the end, the memories are going to be about how we came together,
Yep.
how
Mhm.
safe we felt and how connected we felt, family, friends, and even strangers. And so I think, you know, that to me is also to look at this time as an opportunity.
Wow. Okay, guys, I think it's an awesome point to stop if you okay with me, because I think we touched the topic from, you know, from different angles, and I do feel at least my state is indicates that we reached certain particular depth, and I hope people will find our talks useful. And by the way, I always forget during our talks to ask people to share, you know, our conversations, because someone might, we hope that someone might benefit from that, and our talks will help maybe some people to get through those kind of these times, and prevent some maybe dramatic situations or some stress or some depressions or whatever. So yeah, feel free to share these conversations and subscribe for our channel, because that's the easiest way, you know, for us to notify, you know, everyone about our next talks. And we will continue to discuss those important kind of powerful points which right now on everybody's table. Thank you very much, Alice. Thank you, John. And
Thank you
yeah,
both.
I hope see you both soon for spiritual talk.
Okay.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you,
Bye.
Alice.
Yep. Bye bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.